Hey everyone! Welcome back to the Heroclix History Channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, rather than going to the next set that I was going to talk about, because everyone's been so excited to have their hands on this guy recently. I thought I would go over and do a top 10. Not your ordinary top 10, because I like to be off the beaten path. I'm going for the top 10 craziest or most annoying possible Heralds of Galactus that you could assign that 25 points to. And just to recap on the rules, I think most people know them, but you pick a character that is a standard character that is no more than half your total build for your team, and then you pay the 25 points to make them a Herald of Galactus. They get the abilities that are on the dial, they get the power cosmic, and they are protected from outwit, which will make several of these characters really annoying, I promise you. So let's jump into that and see what I thought would be some of the most annoying possibilities. And in a way, some of these could work really good with a nice team built around them. Oh, I didn't stick modern either. I should remember to tell you what the specifics were. I didn't go for any figures that were really huge, like 150 points. It's 100 points or less. Then, only figures that come out of a booster pack and no chases. So most of this is stuff you could acquire normally without having to go too far out of your way. Now, as I jump into this then, number 10 is a common. It's from World's Finest. Not all of them are modern. And that choice, I thought, should be Mr. Nobody. Mr. Nobody, especially when you have so many more pieces of equipment flying around from all these different sets, is definitely bound to be an annoyance for that person who wants to put a power gem on any old figure, because now you're picking where your opponent's pieces, as in equipment and objects, go. The other trick that he has, which is a little more gimmicky, is the ability to swap the printed powers on any 2 clicks on a dial. So if you don't want your opponent who you've targeted takes a power action to use what's on dial number 2, you'd rather they use what's on number 3. Click number 2, click number 3. Then you just give them power action, switch them, and they're stuck going the other direction. So that's where you have it for Mr. Nobody. He's a common. He's only 55 points, so he fits really well. Number 9. The person I chose for number 9 comes out of Xavier's school and is a wonderful answer to all the pick-up power that's all over the place now. That would be Darwin. And I have him right here. I had to show you a paper on the other guy. I'm sorry he's not in my collection, sadly, but Darwin is. And Darwin can be a really annoying piece to KO with 2 stop clicks that have regeneration, and giving him the ability to push without taking any penalty makes it easier to use those. The powers that you wind up giving him can get him to the other side to call in the big guy relatively easy. And whenever someone picks a power with Darwin on the table, they take a click of unavoidable damage, not just penetrating. Now that's really awesome for a figure that only has 4 clicks of health, when you consider how much you have to pour into taking out Darwin. But even then, he only comes to number 9. Number 8. Shade the Changing Girl. I love annoying people with Shade the Changing Girl. She's one of my favorites. She can get all the way across the table in a heartbeat. All you have to do is give her a power action to land on an unheld object anywhere on the map. That means she can get to the other side really fast. Also, there's that shape change ability that she has, that touch of madness. Whenever she gets her shape change roll, she gets to pick a new target for the attack, which means basically, please punch your friend. Not too many figures do that, making her, at her 45 points, really well worth it. I mean, Protector from Outwit on top of it, that shape change isn't going anywhere. Number 7. I decided to go with a title character for this one. And while we went against Pick a Power at first, now we're going to thrive on it with Legion Fractured Savant. Legion is already annoying in the fact that you can give him a plot point to make your opponent pick between two powers that you want to use. Naturally, you're going to try and make that as thorny a choice as you possibly can. But let's give him the power Cosmic on top of that. Now we're talking some dangerous stuff, especially when he does enough damage to KO figures, causing that dial over here to turn, making it easier to bring in the big guy. Definitely worth playing, and at 85 points for what he does, it's a bonus. A great title character to use that would really annoy your opponent. Speaking of annoying, we're going to go a little ways further out to a Deadpool set, and we're going to bring in Mistress Death. Mistress Death basically doesn't die. The only drawback to that is whenever she would be KO'd, she gets put back in your starting area, making it difficult to get her all the way across the map into your opponent's starting area, which is a requirement for calling in this big fellow. But what she does to make up for that is whenever she gives someone her Touch of Death trait, all she has to do is hit someone in close combat, and they get a token. For the rest of the game, anyone who has a token that's dealt damage takes double that damage, making her a really good contender. Now, she already has the power Cosmic. I realize that. But giving her the extra abilities as a Herald, like, oh, I don't know, hypersonic speed? Do you really want to see her with hypersonic speed? I don't think you do. But it'll happen if you play her. Let's see. Let's dig in here for number 5. Number 5 is one of my favorite characters. There's so many wonderful versions of her, but I chose this version. Particularly Captain Marvel. The Prime Captain Marvel. Why? Because she's a vampire. I like the vampires. What do you want, you know? But whenever she hits someone with a close combat attack, she has permanent steel energy. She'll always heal, which means it's great to throw her right in someone's face, meaning that she'll always be close enough to an opponent to trigger the dial, because if you're within 5 spaces, you get to click the Herald dial. If she KOs somebody, which is pretty likely, you get to click the Herald dial. And getting her across the map shouldn't be all that difficult either, considering she also flies and gets lots of movement. So I just think she's a wonderful choice. You could play any Captain Marvel and have a great time. I just think that this one would be my favorite, and that steel energy would really ramp up the annoying factor. So Captain Marvel definitely makes my number 5. Let's go to number 4, and let's get a little more annoying with Immortal Hulk. Immortal Hulk. Boy, you know, the biggest problem with him is that you have to KO him 3 times. 3 full times in order to take him off the map. That gives him lots of time to mess around if you play him right. That's the only trick. You don't want him to get mobbed. That's been my answer to dealing with him. I either ignore him and don't trigger his first click to let him go crazy, or I mob as much damage on him as I can, and that eventually takes him out. You're going to make it hard to ignore Immortal Hulk if he's a Herald of Galactus, because he's definitely going to get across the map. You're going to give him abilities you don't want to see him have, and extra protection from outwit, so it's not just on his certain clicks. I think he's a solid choice. Beautiful choice, especially where he only comes in at 100 points to start. Then, now this was close, okay? Comparing these two figures, this was really close, because Immortal Hulk definitely packs a lot of punch. But I found this character also to be difficult to KO. And that pick is Solomon Grundy. Solomon Grundy from Justice League Animated, or Justice League Unlimited, if I'm going to get it right, has a dial that you can flip back and forth on at will on two sections of his dial. Now, whenever you do this, he has 3 clicks of steel energy. He also has a trait that says if he would be KO'd, pick which one of those dials you want him on, and he stays on that for the rest of the game. Add the rest of what Galactus will give him, and you're just looking at a nightmare on the table. Not only can he be difficult to take out, you can't outwit him, and you just can't slow him down. He's definitely going to come through a few walls. But seeing as we're not done there, I can tell you I have figures that are way more annoying in this, and the most annoying ones are up next. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 is none other than Daredevil. This Daredevil is a big problem in the way that the only way you can KO him is to roll 6s. He has 3 tokens on his card. They're called his 6 tokens. Whenever you roll a 6 to attack him, you get to remove one of those tokens. However, his dial just changes to another starting line until you can do it again. No matter how many times you actually KO him, if you don't get rid of those 6 tokens, he'll never leave the table. And he has wonderful movement, enhanced movement, and he can go, in some cases, from 8 to always 8, but if you perplex him up, since he has perplex on a few of these, you can wind up getting 9, 10, and make him really hard to take out. Again, add everything that he gets from Galactus, and your opponent might flip the table. Well, maybe not. I think they might flip the table for number 1. Before I give you number 1, I'm going to give you a couple of honorary mentions. My first honorary mention is Venom Doctor Strange. I didn't pull him out, but I think you get the idea from the most recent set, Spider-Man Ultimate Carnage. Venom Doctor Strange gets to call in, summon in from a sideline, other Venom figures to do things for him. Now, when you add Galactus to that, meaning that eventually he can summon yet another totally different character from the sideline, it's going to be pretty rough. And I think that would be kind of mean to do to your opponent. But the meanest thing possible that only gets an honorable mention, and I'll tell you why, is the Mandarin from Captain America and the Avengers, who I don't have. The Mandarin, if you collect his rings, which don't come out of a booster, that's why he's not in the list official, he's not considered equipped, we'll put it that way. You can't equip a Herald of Galactus, but Mandarin gets around that with the wording on his card saying that he just gets to have his rings. And since you get to pick 2 of his rings to use every time you do anything, it can get really ugly really fast. I've been up against him. I think I've KO'd him once, and I've had that figure without this kind of power wipe my whole team out. So, yeah, don't do that to people. It's not nice. Let's get on to number 1. Number 1 goes back into Joker's Wild, and I'm talking about Ha-Ha Joker. I know a couple of people expected to see him on there. I don't know if you expected to see him as number 1, but the reason he's number 1 is because it really is, especially if you're paying attention to his dial, very hard to KO him. He comes into play at either 30, 40, or 50 points. For every 10 points, he has an escape token on his card. Now, as his dial spins around from either healing or taking damage, you only get to remove one of those tokens when one of his starting lines, and there's only 2 of them, gets crossed. Either way. Now, when you have to do that 5 times at 50 points, making him a bargain for a Herald of Galactus, it's going to be difficult, because the other thing he can do, for free, at the beginning of your turn, you may roll a d6, have the result, and heal or damage him that many clicks, just because. So if you think you're getting too close to one of those lines to cross it, heal him up to 3 clicks. Make it more annoying for your opponent to try and take him out. And while he may not have a lot of KO power in him, he definitely has the travel power. And you're going to give him lots of it with this. Well, what did you think of my picks? Can you think of something even more annoying to put with Galactus? I'm sure you can, but can you do it within the 100 points I was mentioning? I mean, anyone can go for a powerhouse, right? Of course. Well, that is pretty much it. I had a lot of fun putting this together. I hope you had some fun sitting with me as I babble on about it. Make sure to hit the subscribe and the bell, because subscribing to this channel gives you better dice rolls, and that's still not an official claim. Thank you so much for being here, and keep on clicksing.